Welcome to Capitalize Your Finances, the podcast that's your ultimate guide to mastering personal finances and unlocking the secrets of entrepreneurship. Each week, we dive into the world of personal finance and business development and have fascinating conversations with industry experts, seasoned entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who share their insights, strategies, and stories to help you get ahead in life. Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur looking to scale your business or someone just starting out on your financial path, this podcast is your go-to resource for inspiration and actionable insights.
Welcome back to Capitalize Your Finances. As always, I'm your host, Chris Ray Panayiotou, certified financial planning professional, the Cap and Capitalize. And on today's episode, we are going to get into what to do to guarantee sales. But as always, before we get into that, the free tip of the week. If you are penny wise, you are pound foolish. The most successful people in the world understand this the most. And instead of looking at the dollar amount of things, ask yourself what the return will be on that purchase. Now, I'm not going to say costs are not important. That's like saying, oh man, that commercial real estate property is really, really cheap. It's like, yeah, okay, well, cheap. I still don't have $3 million to go and buy that property. But I'm going to tell you, the more financially successful you become, I want you to think about your finances as like you're the CEO of your finances. You're not just an everyday person managing your purchases or I don't want to say living paycheck to paycheck, but like managing each paycheck accordingly within your expenses. Like as you become more wealthy, you're going to quickly understand that you need to level up your mentality with that. So, penny wise, pound foolish. That is all I have to say on that. Okay. Because I could go on. So let's get into what you need to do to guarantee a sale. And some of these we've talked about in the past. And I just really need to bring them up again because frankly, people keep asking the same question. And then we've got some new ones coming in the door. So the first one I want to talk about is if you're trying to guarantee a sale, you need to get as many pain points as possible and make sure you solve those pain points during your closing meeting. So we've mentioned in the past how you want to get at least 3 pain points when you're talking to someone before you actually provide them something, formerly known as sales. If you only have 1 pain point, there's only about a 30% chance-ish that you're going to close them. If you get at least 2 of their pains down, that's going to be a 60% close rate. And then 3 or more, it's about 95. Now, there comes a point where if you've got 40 pain points, you should probably elongate that out over a period of time instead of solving all 40, because there is the opportunity of diminishing returns. And there's also an act of sales within that because you keep your customers or clients coming back for more in a genuine way. Now, the second point I want to get into is when you are going through your closing meeting, consistently, but subconsciously, check back with whoever you are talking to in order to constantly check in and make sure you are on the right track according to what they are looking for. I've seen this mistake so often where someone has an initial meeting and then, especially in service-based business, they have an initial meeting and then they gather all the information. They go and create whatever the plan is going to be. And then once they go over the plan, they go through everything as what needs to happen. And all of that is fine and good, but they're not checking back in with whoever they're trying to provide to. There's not even a simple check-in of, hey, how are we doing? Are we on the right track here? Do you have any questions so far? They just rip right through it. Now, a lot of that can be due to lack of confidence. Maybe you're nervous if this is your first time around, especially if you're listening to this podcast. There's a good chance with this particular episode that you may be new to the world of sales. And so you're trying to get ahead. You're like, oh my gosh, how can I guarantee this? And you typed in, how can I guarantee sales? And this probably popped up on YouTube or Spotify or Apple. But I'm going to tell you right now, just that little tweak of checking back in, and there's a multitude of ways of doing it throughout the meeting. Just sprinkle it in. Whoever you're selling to, they're going to appreciate that a hell of a lot more as opposed to you just ripping the Band-Aid right off. Because if in your mind, you may be as genuine as humanly possible, And I believe that, by the way. I believe actually most people inherently are a lot more genuine than they may even believe in themselves. But when it's a sales situation and you're talking to a prospective client or customer, it's going to come off as either, okay, he's just trying to rip through because maybe he's sick and tired of me or whatever the case is, or he just wants to get the sale and be done with it. That is not going to lead to a guarantee of a sale. Now, the third tip that I got to give you when it comes to guaranteeing a sale before we head on into the commercial break, actually listen. Now, what do I mean by actually listen? This got a lot of popularity a couple episodes back, and I need to rehash it. When you are listening to someone, you need to figure out what type of person they are. They need to be either a visual, an auditory, so audible, or kinesthetic. Visual, they want to be sold with their eyes. Audible, they want to be sold with their ears. Kinesthetic, they want to be sold with their heart. Now, that last one, there's only about 5% of people out there that are kinesthetic, so it's a lot more. It's actually a lot more difficult to sell to kinesthetics. However, it's only 5% of the population. That doesn't mean you write it off, though, because ironically, some of the most successful people I know are kinesthetics, which is it's a great thing. But from a pure sales conversation, it's going to be the largest difficulty for you. About 35% are audibles, and then that remaining, 65%, depending on what study you look at, are visuals. And the reason why I bring that up is when you figure out the type of person that they are, you need to respond according to the type of person that they are. If they're a visual, you need to ask them, okay, how are we looking? How does this look? Is this picture in your mind progressing towards the right direction? If it's audible, how does that sound? If it's kinesthetic. So how are you feeling about this? You feeling good? You feeling bad? Whatever the case may be. Once you master that, the odds of closing that sale, there's no such thing as a guaranteed 100% until the sale is done, but you are going to get really, really close to getting that 100%. So with that, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and then when we come back, I'm going to close out with a couple more tips and tricks for you to guarantee more sales. Stick around.
Are you ready to transform the way you approach sales? This episode is sponsored by the second book in the Capitalize series, Capitalize Your Sales, the all-in-one sales framework that saves you from ever struggling again and teaches you how to sell with sincerity, which dives deep into the art and science of driving sustainable growth. Packed with strategies that go beyond surface-level techniques, this book will help you understand what it takes to truly connect with clients, build long-term relationships, and close deals. Whether you're looking to fine-tune your sales craft or break through to the next level, Capitalize Your Sales offers a roadmap to success designed for today's fast-paced business world. Head on over to your favorite bookstore, order today, and start capitalizing your sales immediately. And now, back to the episode.
Welcome back to the show. We're going to rip right into the last 2 tips on what you need to do to guarantee sales, with number 4 being until the ink is signed and you are paid, the sale is not complete. Now, I mentioned this a while back, and I'll admit, people hit me up saying like, that's such an obvious thing to know. Like, why did you even need to say it? And it's interesting because those same people, I can guarantee you, have been humbled so hard when it comes to sales that they'll never admit it, but they're probably going, oh, that's what Chris meant. So for anyone in sales, and it's a little bit different if it's a more transactional sale. So if you're selling a car, if you're selling a painting service or something where it's kind of like it's like a one and done, like, hey, you ready to go? But this isn't going to gargantually alter the course of your life. It's a little bit easier to get that ink to dry and get paid, because more likely than not, you're going to get paid right then and there. But when it comes to more elaborate sales, maybe you're a merger and acquisition specialist. Holy snot. You want to talk about how long it takes to get a business sold? Ask my friend Lori Barkman, the merger and acquisition business transition Sherpa. She's been on our show. Really good friend of mine. Lori will tell you at a minimum, it'll take months to actually close a transaction. Now, as a merger and acquisition, at the end of that, you're going to get paid for your time. I'll tell you that much. But in the meantime, it's the consistency of going and pushing and pushing. Same thing if you're a CPA or even a financial advisor or planner. Occasionally, in our industry, you have a circumstance where a client comes in and they say, hey, because we work with personal injury attorneys a lot, I just got a settlement for $500,000 for my accident. There's no tax consequence. Here's the money. I've literally got it in my checking account. Where do I sign? Let's go. And even with that, you sign the check, it gets submitted that day, and the money's ready to invest the day or two after that. That's very rare. That is extremely rare in our industry. I mean, there have been some cases where I've spoken to people for 2, 3. There was one client that we have that I can think of. It took them 7 years to finally trust me, which is wild. And I get it, because like our industry, it's not a one and done thing. I mean, it is a marriage, okay? And you get to know where the bodies are buried, financially speaking. So, until that ink is signed and you are paid, the sale is not complete. And don't think anything else. Now, the last piece of advice that we're going to give, and by we, I mean me, before we close the sucker out. Remember that every interaction is a closing sales meeting. Now, I tell you that, and I'll tell you, I learned this the hard way early on in my career, where, you get a new client, their money comes over, it's invested, and there's that false sense of, okay, well, not now my job is done, but all right, now I can kind of let my guard down. No, not even remotely close. After an initial meeting, you go through your plan, whatever it is that you do with the client, they pay you, then the real sale begins. And I've mentioned this before, and I'm going to say it again. The best sales is award-winning service. And I'll tell you, every meeting that you have with a client, and I'll be honest, as time goes on and you get better at your craft and your business and your brand starts to grow, you could make an argument that you could get a little bit more lax with it. I can tell you right now, we even have we've had this opportunity where some of my longtime friends are starting to do really, really well in their career, and they're starting to work with me. So you could make an argument of, oh wow, these are some of your best friends, like they're not going to leave you, blah 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 blah. That is a recipe for disaster. Every meeting that I have with an existing client, it is just as, if not more, intense in my mind than the initial plan presentation meeting where you ask someone if they're ready to do it or not. And I'm telling you this because the second you let your guard down, your competition, that is where you were at when you were hungry, is going to murder you. And another thing on top of that is you need to leave your ego at the door. And not only at the door, you need to leave it as far away from you as humanly possible. Because remember, when you enter a meeting, whether it's a planned presentation meeting or a meeting with your existing clientele, what is that meeting about? It is about the person you're talking to. It is not about you. This is not your time. And I'll tell you what, the more you compound your profound understanding in relationship and communication and connection with whoever it is you are serving, the more your sales will skyrocket. And that is an amazing guarantee. So that does it for today's episode on what to do in order to guarantee sales. Let me know if you have any questions. You know how to get a hold of me at this point. As always, I cannot wait to see you next week, and keep capitalizing. Take care. As always, thank you for joining me today. If you have questions about today's episode or any personal finance questions, please reach out to me at Cap and Capitalize on Instagram, Chris at capitalizeyourfinances.com, or via our website, capitalizepodcast.com. If you want more Capitalize Your Finances content, head on over to capitalizepodcast.com and check out our blog, free resources, book, and online course. As always, I'm your host, Chris Frey Panayiotou, Certified Financial Planning Professional, the Cap and Capitalize. And until next time, keep capitalizing.
Christopher Panayiotou is a registered representative with and securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC. Capitalize Your Finances LLC is a separate entity from LPL Financial. Capitalize Your Finances is not registered as a broker-dealer or investment advisor. CRPS conferred by College for Financial Planning. Lori Barkman is not affiliated with or endorsed by LPL Financial or Capitalize Your Finances.